Formula One, or F1 as it's known to fans, was in the headlines recently for reasons that had nothing to do with cars or Lewis Hamilton's rakish good looks. In the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Haas F1 cut ties with Russian driver Nikita Mazepin and title sponsor Uralkali, a Russian oil company run by Nikita's father, Dmitry Mazepin. Turns out, Dmitry Mazepin was literally in a meeting with Vladimir Putin on the first day of the Russian invasion, and Haas only really signed Nikita in the first place to get Dmitry's money. The car also had a Russian flag livery, which is not a good look at the moment, internationally speaking, so they definitely made the right decision here. But it's still just a little surprising that anyone drew a line anywhere at all, considering the state of some other current F1 sponsors and business partners. Today on Wheelhouse, I'm gonna rant on everyone's parade lap and tell you why pretty much every F1 sponsor is shady.
Thank you to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. Listen up, you mother lovers. Mother's Day is almost here, and I know flowers are a nice gift, but my mom is a rock star, and rock stars deserve more than flowers. They deserve Raycon everyday earbuds. It doesn't matter if she's tech savvy or not, the everyday earbuds are easy to set up and even easier to use. They come in a bunch of fun color options to match your mom's personality and style. Whether she's on the job or on the go, Raycons offer 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life with their compact portable charging case. So she'll never miss a podcast, a song, or even a phone call with vivid voice technology. And thanks to Raycon's optimized gel tips, your mom will have a comfortable in-ear fit that will not budge. Staying in. So get your awesome mom premium audio quality and only spend half the price of the other premium brands. Raycon's everyday earbuds have over 49,000 5-star reviews, making them the perfect gift for a 5-star mom like mine.
I love you, Nolan.
I've been using Raycons for a long time. They sound great, the battery lasts a long time, they're super durable. Definitely check them out. Give a gift better than flowers and click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/donut to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Tell your mother I said Happy Mother's Day.
The fact that F1 has sponsors at all has long been both a big booster of the sport's growth and somewhat of a bummer. We're all so used to seeing race cars plastered with ads that we don't really even question it. But until the 1960s, Grand Prix cars generally ran without any badging at all, using only national colors. Back then, the closest thing F1 teams had to sponsors were the tire and oil companies that gave them free supplies in exchange for a small logo on drivers' overalls. Even the mark of each car was limited to a discrete badge on the nose until the mid-60s, when Team Lotus began to print its name on the side of its cars. Honda and other competitors quickly followed suit. However, commercial sponsorship remained outlawed in F1 until 1968. What changed? Well, before that season, BP and Shell withdrew from supplying F1 with oil, and Firestone simultaneously decided to start charging for tires. Faced with a heap of new expenses, the FIA decided to finally allow teams sponsors. It was either that or sign Jackie Stewart up to drive for Uber. Team Lotus quickly took advantage of the new rules. Lotus founder Colin Chapman signed an £85,000 British pound a year deal with Imperial Tobacco to sponsor his Lotus 49. In the season's third race, the 1968 Monaco Grand Prix, Lotus shocked fans by ditching their traditional British racing green livery for a red paint job based on Imperial's gold leaf cigarette cartons. F1 cars have been covered with ads, Post Malone tattoo style, ever since. Today, more than 300 brands are F1 sponsors, accounting for over $1 billion pouring into F1's coffers every year. Sponsorships generally account for at least a quarter of each team's income, with some teams relying on sponsors for up to 80% of their funding. That's big money, which means big pressure on team owners to sign up more and more backers. So historically, they've been willing to accept sponsorships from pretty much anyone who can clear a check. That illustrious history includes extremely confusing sponsors like condom manufacturer Durex, X-rated magazine Penthouse, and James Pumphrey's favorite band in the world, ABBA. Mamma mia, here we go again. To be fair, this is not an F1 specific issue. Rivals like IndyCar and NASCAR have both run cars sponsored by Dianetics and bankrolled by the Church of Scientology. Speaking of things that are not real in sponsored F1 cars, Rich Energy may be the most famous recent example of a scammy F1 sponsor. The little-known company agreed to a title sponsorship deal with Haas before the 2019 season, despite the fact that the company's energy drink was basically not sold in stores. The deal fell apart midway through the season when Rich Energy's official Twitter account tweeted tweeted they were terminating the contract because of poor performance. What was really happening was a struggle within Rich Energy, which was trying to oust CEO William Story. Unfortunately for the company, Story had control of their Twitter account and was also the face of the deal with Haas. Story went on to compare Haas's car to a milk truck and tweeted a Photoshop of himself crashing the team's vehicles. Donut's very own Joe Weber actually bought me a case of Rich Energy off the internet in 2020, and I have to say he's actually pretty good. It helped me write a lot of episodes of Past Gas. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention oil companies here, who have been prominently involved in the sport since those free gas days. But I'm basically gonna give F1 a pass for oil sponsorships and not really talk about them here because, number one, every single one does the same shady stuff, so it's not very fun to examine, and two, oil is integral to the actual sport itself. It's like getting mad if the NFL was sponsored by an MRI machine company. You just can't. On the other hand, I will definitely give it up for the all-time GOAT of awful F1 sponsors, tobacco companies. Team Lotus's early partnership with Imperial Tobacco paved the way for decades of close collaboration between cigarette manufacturers and racing teams. In 1972, Lotus launched a black and gold livery inspired by John Player Special, another Imperial brand. To many fans, this car proved that a branded livery could actually look good, and I gotta say, they weren't wrong. The John Player Special freaking rules. Marlboro joined the influx of tobacco brands in F1 in 1973 by signing a deal with McLaren. It then became Ferrari's main partner in 1996, defining an era of F1 cars thanks to the success of Michael Schumacher. But despite the Marlboro car's iconic status, it was an endangered species. In the late 90s, individual countries began adopting tobacco ad restrictions in the media. At the same time, the expansion of cable and satellite TV made F1 and other motorsports increasingly reliant on media money. But tobacco companies didn't go down without a fight. In response to the new rules, companies like British American Tobacco began designing global dark market logos. These logos used the color and design of key cigarette brands, but not their names, so they could still be placed on cars. Very clever. By 2005, a treaty spearheaded by the World Health Organization led to the ban of tobacco advertising in the print media, on radio, and all over the internet. Basically all over the world. And in 2006, the FIA finally implemented a recommendation against tobacco advertising, although it wasn't an outright ban. This little loophole gave tobacco companies the ability to skirt the new rules with creative twists on their old branding, which led to super weird liveries like the Marlboro barcode car and the admittedly awesome Bitten and Hisses car that substituted a frickin' snake for Benson and Hudge's tobacco branding. I gotta say, big upgrade. Nevertheless, without the ability to actually advertise their cancer sticks, cigarette companies eventually stopped sponsoring F1 teams altogether. Or did they? Question mark, question mark. Despite literal international laws against tobacco advertising, ciggy companies are still a big source of sponsorship money. These days, tobacco companies simply disguise their sponsorship dollars. British American Tobacco is now a principal sponsor of McLaren, only the car says "a better tomorrow" instead of a cigarette name. That phrase is apparently British American Tobacco's thought-leading program that hopes to provide, quote, a portfolio of potentially reduced risk products which can deliver a better tomorrow for our consumers. Similarly, Marlboro actually still sponsors Ferrari, but their contributions are branded as Mission Winnow, which, just like A Better Tomorrow, is a stupid thing you've never heard of. This one is funded by Philip Morris, Marlboro's parent company, and seeks to, quote, create engagement around the role of science, technology, and innovation as a powerful force for good. What? Mission Winnow's website also says it's dedicated to finding non-smoking tobacco alternatives, and that it's experimenting on donated human tissue to see those possible alternatives before human trials. So basically, it's a bunch of guys sitting around figuring out how to make Juul pods more addictive. Awesome. And truth be told, I'm not sure what Philip Morris gets out of advertising a fake science initiative that no one will ever pay attention to. But hey, what do I know? I'm literally just some guy. F1's continued relationship with Big Tobacco is only one of many controversial industries that the sport currently partners with. So, let's play a quick game of bingo, shall we? Here's how it works. I'll look at the current grid and tell you which racing teams are associated with which shady industry. In the end, you pick the team to root for that repels you the least. Sounds fun, right? Yeah, I didn't think so. But But here we go anyway. First, everyone gets a free space for environmental issues. That's because before the 2020 season, F1 announced a long-term sponsorship deal with Saudi Aramco, the world's largest corporate greenhouse gas emitter. This single company is estimated to be responsible for over 4% of the entire world's greenhouse gas emissions since 1965. It's the closest real-world equivalent to partnering with Thanos. Great work, F1. The new hotness in racing right now is crypto sponsorships. Not necessarily evil, but definitely an unregulated playground for scammers, spammers, and various other ne'er-do-wells. We talked a lot about this in our Metaverse video, so go check that one out because I'm actually really proud of it. So let's see. Aston Martin is sponsored by Crypto.com. Red Bull is sponsored by Tezos. McLaren is sponsored by Bitsy.com. AlphaTauri is sponsored by Phantom. And Alfa Romeo partnered with Socios.com. All right, let's check the bingo card here, and wow, this might be a quick bingo. F1 accepted its first ever gambling sponsorship in 2020, when the 188bet Sportsbook was installed as the official betting partner of F1 Asia. Ahead of the 2022 season, Red Bull agreed to a branding deal with PokerStars. So let's add a couple more stamps to the card here. Okay, let's see, we've got a scams column up there. AlphaTauri is sponsored by My World, which is a multi-level marketing scheme that's banned in Norway. It used to be called Lioness, and before that it was called iTime, but they kept changing their name to avoid lawsuits. Similarly, Aston Martin took a sponsorship from Futuro Coin, which was a rebranding of a Ponzi scheme called FutureNet. Next up is health. First, we got a stamp Ferrari and McLaren for the Tobacco Thought Labs. Great, thanks. Energy drinks are also known to cause heart and brain issues, so Team Red Bull gets a stamp. Monster Energy sponsors Mercedes. Haas gets a retroactive Nolan for Rich Energy, and Williams also gets one for a Hungarian sponsor named Hell Energy. Can we talk about this website for a sec? What's in that flask? Why does she have a barcode scanner? Where do these people work? I want to know, because I want to apply. This looks awesome. Anyway, now we've got the worst category on the board. Human rights violations. Every one of these teams has raced in China, Bahrain, Azerbaijan, and most recently, Saudi Arabia. All those countries are run by governments known to restrict civil liberties and abuse human rights. That hasn't stopped anyone in F1 from taking their money and legitimizing their leadership. Most problematically, the largest shareholder of the McLaren Group is the Bahrain Mumtalakat Holding Company. In other words, McLaren is actually owned by the royal family, the literal government of Bahrain. Staging these races and accepting these team owners is in direct conflict with the We Race as One messaging F1 has been using the past couple of years. So let's check the final bingo score here, and it looks like we all lose. Told you this game's not fun. Okay, so lots of companies are shady. That's not a very good lesson. Where do we draw the line? It's easy to point out human rights violations in Saudi Arabia or Azerbaijan, but it's not like America's perfect. More to the point, are American oil tycoons really much different from Russian ones? Any company that's wealthy enough to sponsor an F1 team is likely to have some skeletons in their closet. That's just the nature of the system that we live in. There isn't an easy answer to this problem, and Formula One isn't the only sport with this issue. So we're left in a situation where the action on track isn't inherently harmful, but we also can't just close our eyes to the money making it happen.
iCar is officially back from the dead, so naturally we have brand new Boost Creeps shirts to welcome it back. Boost Creeps can be scary, I know, but they're perfectly harmless, I promise. So go get your new Boost Creep shirts today at donutmedia.com.
Alright, so yeah. Thank you very much for watching Wheelhouse. Bit of a mixed bag on this one this week. I don't know. Tweet at some racing teams. How about that? I think if you've got a problem with how things are done, hit them up on social media. Get in touch with these teams. Let them know that you want to see something different. Be kind. I'll see you next time.